Hello and welcome, future viewers, to the awkward moment in the beginning of a live stream, a random live stream at that, where you find the YouTube creator talking to an empty room. But that's just the way it goes. So, I'm going to say a future welcome to anybody doing a rewatch on this video. And today, I was hoping we could chat about Mr. Allan Savory, and hopefully some of you more regular viewers have had a chance to go out, check out some of his lectures and talks and stuff, and we can kind of just discuss what you took out of those various things, what I took out of those various things, and learn as a group. Basically, my experience has always been, you learn more when you're chatting with people than you do just kind of sitting on your own. Howdy, Eric. Nice to see you here. I rather enjoyed your little look around video, actually. You got a beautiful chunk of property those goats is cleaning up for you there, so that's nice. Nice to see that they're doing a good job of it, too. But, yeah, I was actually kind of curious about some electric fence and how that would work out, or whether there was a reason maybe you weren't doing that yet. We have a second viewer. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, while we're kind of waiting for things to get started, is there a reason that you're not using a hot wire to kind of move those goats around and hit some of them problem spots? Rev, howdy, howdy. Canada's cold, as always, as always. Money, oh yeah, see, that's the same reason I don't have land for goats to wander on, is I don't have that darn capital to get going. I will, though. I got plans. Plans, hopes, dreams, intentions, desires, wishes. I'll take any of them, really. Got some prayers at this point. That little bit of hot chocolate stuck on an itty bitty bit of mustache. That's terrible. Alrighty, so yeah. Rev, did you do your homework, buddy? Did you watch any videos on Mr. Allan Savory? Or Eric? Are you familiar with any of Allan Savory's things? I kind of ended up on a tangent, I think, with Punky in the comments on that, because it kind of turned into one of those diet things and a vegetarian anti-beef thing. So yeah, I hope everything's still cool there, because Punky and I have been chatting for a lot of years. But yeah. So Eric, yeah, Allan Savory, and you were talking about kind of keeping things green after too. So I suspect there are a few of my future people that you know. But yeah, so Allan Savory, now that we've got three people, Allan Savory has got some really interesting and controversial theories out there about livestock. And yeah, I've experienced that controversy firsthand lately. But primarily, he's kind of on about management of, not only our livestock, but our farm fields, and really holistic management of, if you look at it on a deeper level, kind of everything. So the reason that I chose him as a starting point is he's a wonderful old guy, and he has come, I think, full circle on his journey, because when he talks about his earlier stuff, he talks about how he used to be kind of an activist and foursquare against ranchers. And what's his quote? I wanted to shoot goddamn ranchers because I thought you were destroying the land, or something along those lines. And he was man enough to admit that he was wrong in his mindset, and to look around and find out what needed to be done, what could be done, and has come up with this position that he defends and has been defending since like the 60s, or the late 70s for sure. 1984, I think it is, he put the holistic management course together, so definitely since then. But howdy, Babette. It's very interesting, not only what he talks about, but just how I almost want to say jaded, but divided, I think, might be a better word, people are on the topic of this whole beef and livestock thing in general. It's amazing. Like, to me, it's just part of life, farming, ranching, it's the way it is. My stepdad worked for Agriculture Canada, therefore by the time I was 10, I'd seen a hanging carcass. Don't bother me. It looks like barbecue to me. And it's the way of life. But a lot of people just really get very, very upset about it. And There are, I guess, good reasons because there are a lot of sensational titles out there. Like I had one scroll across my Facebook feed that I think it was earlier today. 44,000 wild horses to be slaughtered to make way for cattle. Now, if that were reasonable and proper cattle management, then yeah, cows would be a terrible thing and we shouldn't be running with cows. But I think what Alan Savory is suggesting is that it could be done better and it could be done to better to a point where, we wouldn't need to do crazy things like killing all these wild horses that are also useful herbivores going around munching down the grasslands, laying down their little soil deposits, as it were. And I'm quite fascinated really by the potential of livestock when it comes to what's the best way to put this? New homesteaders or new to farming individuals really can do with their land because there's a lot of junk land out there where, yeah, farmers seem to be paying more in inputs. When you consider the diesel and the tractor payments and the seed and the fertilizer and the pesticide and all of this stuff that they put on the field. And then they got to pay combine pilots and grain truck drivers and all that stuff. They get very little out of it. And seriously, there are a lot of fields out there that are going to be sold to the next generation of farmer because they're garbage. So I think it's really important for us, and I define us as ranchers, farmers, and would-be ranchers and farmers that recognize YouTube as a educational platform. Um, yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for us because we can go into these places and go, okay, well, this land is truly trashed. There's nothing I can do to really make it worse. So let's try these things that are supposed to make it better. And we'll be able to witness firsthand, whether or not this crap actually works. Now, you're looking down the road at kind of some of the things that Alan Savory is talking about, because he's talking about desertification, which is pretty real, pretty obvious, and pretty scary. And he's talking about the water cycles that we need to be maintaining. And that's, in my lifetime, I have seen huge changes in the climate. And you get everybody going, well, it's a hoax, it's a scam, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing. And the sciences give you 50 million reasons why the planet's changing. So you can't really pick one. But the reality, the simple reality, is that the climate is getting more and more questionable. We don't know from day to day if it's going to be like last year or not. And we need to be able to adapt to ever changing conditions. That said, we need to be doing what we can to try and stabilize things. Oh, hang on, Eric. I've been watching a lot of farming videos and wonder how they're making money with all their inputs. Yeah, they're not. I heard a statistic, apparently it's a Canadian statistic that says the average Canadian farmer, out of the 100% of what they bring in, 2% is what they put in the bank to sustain themselves. The rest of it's inputs and stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, that's the lecture where I got that from. She's on the list. Good old Aussie, that one. But yeah, she's definitely on the list. So yeah, where was I? With what Allan is putting forward about getting large groups of herbivores moving and changing situations that are turning to deserts into grasslands again, I think is got huge potential for not only planetary restoration, but for us young farmers, But looking at it from a global, we're going to save the world perspective, I mean, what's wrong with the idea of taking some of these states like New Mexico and Arizona and California and getting them growing and functional again, right? Like, these used to be beautiful grasslands from what my research is showing me. And even as a kid, kind of traveling through New Mexico, it looked awful desert like to me. So I don't know about that, but it sure would be pretty if it were prairie grassland instead. That would be nice. And any water that fell there is more likely to stay there. And that gets us to the water cycle thing, kind of another one of Alan Savory's things. We got to get the water staying where it falls instead of rushing up and, creating droughts in one part of the river and creating floods in another part, because it's all rushing away from one and all rushing towards another. water runs downhill. I mean, gravity is what gravity does, and that's just the way that goes. So if we're packing down the fields and making it all like concrete up here, yeah, there's no way we're going to be able to absorb anything, which of course kills the land and kills all kinds of things, but we'll get into that too. Today, I kind of just wanted to talk about Allan Savory and kind of the whole concept, see if anybody else watched any of it and had anything else that they kind of pulled out of it. Eric, you previously made a comment about he's moving animals like in the Serengeti. He's like, that's exactly it, right? I love that aspect of how he proposes to move things, kind of a wild intention, and that pseudo predator relationship where we're forcing them to move, we're forcing them to bunt, we're forcing them to eat less selectively, so they're eating more of it, and therefore they're bringing up things from the natural seed bank that maybe haven't expressed themselves in years or decades, or who even knows how long. Some of these regenerative ranchers and farmers that I'm listening to, they've got just some amazing stuff coming up in their pastures just from kind of following some of these principles. And a lot of this ultimately was started by Allan Savory, which is part of why he's the starting point of all this too. Is he seems to be, I don't know, the benchmark or the epiphany that really got a lot of things going for a lot of farmers. So I felt very much that he should be represented as a starting point. There were a few other options, but you know, it is what it is. Got to start somewhere. Where is the beginning of a circle anyway? Because this all kind of goes full circle. We're going from above the land to in the land to under the land to back in the land, back to above the land. And that's kind of nature's cycle. And that's kind of how this playlist is hopefully going to run out. And with a little luck, like I say, we all might learn something, and we might be able to move our own ranches forward, or you know, I can at the very least inspire you guys to go out and check out new individuals, right? Because anytime we open our mind up to a new idea, we are opening our mind up to a whole new world of possibilities, because maybe we're going to think that's a terrible idea, and we're going to have something to say about it, or maybe we're going to think it's a brilliant idea and we're going to take it home, we're going to try and implement it in our own situation, and who knows, perhaps we might see a vast improvement based on, you know, just taking 20 minutes to listen to what somebody has to say and go, you know, well, that sounds completely crazy. It also sounds like, well, maybe. So who knows? And I think it's important to be inspired by the sense of crazy. That's why I do so much, knowing damn well it's going to fail. I want to find out why it fails, and I want to throw myself at the brick wall until I, you know, go crazy myself or bust my way through, because it's, I don't know, it's what I've done with my life up to this point. So why change now? Oh, excuse me, but you know, all this babbling. So I says I got 5 people out there. I got nobody kicking in the chat here as far as comments, questions, thoughts, theories. So I guess I'll just keep on babbling on. One of the things in relation to Allan Savory and the water conservation aspect of it is I've noticed since we've been here in the prairies that our lake levels, our ponds, our sloughs, all of these various bodies of water that should be, you know, thousands of them around me, they're drying up and they're becoming these nasty little, I want to call them algae beds, but it doesn't even look like it's growing very well as algae. And the farmers are complaining about it and they're going absolutely nuts. And it amuses the heck out of me because there's a gentleman in town, I can't remember his name, but he's been getting some of these individuals to come in and speak to the local farmers. And the local farmers all think he's insane, but he's actually offering them step by step the answer to solve everything they bitch about. And they won't listen. All right, Eric. Joel Salatin and Greg Judy learned from him. Yes, they did. Joel Salatin actually has a great little chat with him. They're all sitting around in a chair circle in his side yard there. Oh, what I would give to be in that chat. That would have been Yeah, educational. And Greg Judy's on the list. I love hit this guy, healing the land, and he's just he's a go-getter kind of guy. Yeah, I would love the opportunity to meet either of those gentlemen. Well, any of the three of them, Alan, Joel, or Greg here. But I think I got a better chance with Greg and maybe Joel. Joel Salatin seems really cool with people coming on his property and checking things out too. That's one of the things that I really like about him is the obvious transparency. Like, you don't believe it works, come check it out. Show me where I'm lying. Show me the behind the scenes magic that actually makes it all work. No, the piggerators really are doing this. The cows really are doing this. The chickens are doing this. And his story too about resurrecting that piece of land that his dad got because it was like dirt cheap, literally, well, not even dirt cheap, stone cheap, because it didn't have no dirt. Like, it's very, very inspirational. And yeah, I'd love to check out his property one day. I don't know if I'm even allowed to cross the border. I got to check that out. But if I do ever cross that imaginary line that doesn't separates us countries, I tell you, I got a lot of visiting to do. I might as well just year in an RV, right? But that's been done to death on YouTube. But yeah, I would definitely stop and see Joel Salatin's place. We call him Salad Man around here because salad bar beef. That's one of his things too. But he's very inspirational, very much on my list of people. I'd like to find out more about the voisin that Allan Savory and Joel Salatin go on about. This Andre voisin, I think it is. Never got a pen to write things down when you got that aha moment. Oh, I should write that down. Oh, I'm in the middle of 50 million other things and my hands are full and I'm juggling. I can't write that down. And by the time you get a chance, it's like, what was that name? But yeah, I'd like to check out his book on basically on proper cattle rotation. I don't know if his point is to restore the land or just to have better animals or what. So I can't really speak on him, but I would like to learn more so that I can speak on him. And I mean, that's kind of the point of all this too, is I am trying to sponge up as much information as I can about affordable, ecologically sound, sustainable homesteading slash ranching, because I do want to take it to a much higher level than simply sustaining our home, which is where I feel homesteading that's the niche. I want to take it to a point where we are engaging in proper enterprise and we are feeding other people in the community and we are making our income from the land. And ideally, I would like to do it with livestock on the land because I see pasture land, and this again is from listening to Allan Savory, but I see pasture land as being one of the kindest ways that we can capture solar energy and raise something functional to eat. I've actually, and there may be a viewer or two who gets offended if they hear this, but I've actually toyed with the idea of making a spoof video. You guys remember spoof, right? Nobody uses that word anymore, but making a spoof video on how vegetarians, and in particular vegetarians who enjoy root crops, are destroying the planet. And I can actually cite several doctors and lecturers that could kind of sort of back that theory if I really wanted to make such an outrageous claim seriously, which I don't. It's just, it amuses me that it could be defended as a position because that's where we are nowadays. And any position that can be defended as a position, whether valid or not, is therefore an arguable position and therefore is entitled to just as much as any other thought, even if that other thought happens to be proven by 100 years of university science. And it's brilliant and stupid to me at the same time that this is where we have gone with the information highway. I was hoping for so much more back in the 80s when we dreamed about this and the global village was a concept. And in the 90s, as the internet started coming together and we started connecting on bulletin board systems and, into the 2000s when we got the real internet that we kind of sort of know today. And damn, have we taken and misused a useful tool. But that's Allan Savory too. Joel is always giving tours. I got that impression. I've seen a lot of videos over a lot of years with him pretty much saying the same stuff. That would be pretty cool. Which would be pretty cool, Eric. I babble on a lot of topics. I'm gonna need more specifics. The vegetarian rant, or just kind of going through this? The video, yeah. Like, I don't want to offend people, but I do it well. So there's that. And it's like I tell people at the hardware store, look, I don't mean to be a pain in the ass. It just comes naturally. Okay. I'm looking for this to do this. You're a hardware store. Can you help me? And they look at me like, have you been to this store before? You know we don't have stuff that's useful. Come on. And what we have is overpriced. Why are you even here? I love the co-op. Wait, I love the co-op. But it is wonderful. Off topic though. So, yes, Allan Savory, pasture lands, rotational grazing. I've noticed with a lot of the videos that I've watched, people get really hung up, not only on the beef, therefore you got to be eating more beef thing, which, no, I could actually do a great video on why the world needs vegetarian ranchers too, but that's a whole other thing. People seem to get really hung up on the idea of if I double my livestock numbers, because this is kind of his basic formula, how do I not run out of food? You know, and I've heard him point out in almost every lecture that, because you're taking that same amount of space and you're breaking it down into smaller spaces, you're building time ahead of your livestock. So all of this stuff gets to grow. And ultimately, I laugh because I think about my face, right? I shave this off, once a week. I let this grow for a couple of months at a time. And he's absolutely right. This little stuff that gets taken off more regularly doesn't grow anywhere near as fast as this stuff here. And it seems stupid to relate it to my face, but I can also relate it to my yard. I've got that one little bit of land behind the spruces. If you saw the duck dispatching video, we did that. I mowed that twice all year. And it was kind of just to watch and see what happened. And it was really quite interesting. Just watching it grow. And like the bunker garden that I've got going, excuse me, that was made out of sod chunks. I let the grass grow up and I rip it off. I don't mow it, I rip it like it's being grazed. And that grass grows in a completely different fashion that is clearly stronger and healthier than the stuff growing in the pasture that is being left and not ripped at. It's messed up. Eric, what I find crazy is that most farmers don't even grow their own food. Right? Right? Talk to a farmer about their garden, and they look like, why would I do that? I can get that at the grocery store. And I'm out here going, why would you get it at the grocery store? You can grow it in the garden and it'll be better. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we have lots of farm and ranch friends, obviously, since we've moved out here. And there is a wonderful couple they got some wonderful daughters. Their daughters are a little lazy, in my opinion, and should help out around the farm. And their boyfriends / husbands, fiancés, whatever status they're at this point, should also be helping out on the farm. Just my opinion as a person who's gone to help out on the farm. But anyway, they got this corral stuffed full of sheep because they were trying to keep them away from the ram at the time, and he was just a little anxious to get doing his job, right? So they got all the sheep locked up. And I'm looking at them going, oh, those looked absolutely delicious. And they looked at me just horrified. You can't eat them? And I'm like, are you kidding? It's mutton. I can't wait to eat them. I am an omnivore. I am an equal opportunity consumer. And like I say, I can make the argument that vegetable gardens and vegetable farms are killing the planet. So I'm good there. Heck, they don't even have a small garden. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Here's a perfect example. So, Eric, I think you're fully aware of where I work. I work at a farrowing barn. For those of you who aren't familiar with that term, I make bacon seeds. I go to work and every day 20 new hogs are shooting out 10 to 20 new piglets. And I clean up after that. The best part of my job, though, is that first 5 minutes in the morning watching all those little piglets run down the hallway. It is so adorable. They're just so cute, but it's killing me at the same time because I don't like to see them being raised that way, but I gotta eat. So I gotta work, and this is the work that's available. And this work is available because people in the city can't raise their own meat. So industrial farming evolved out of the need to feed all of these people that live in these cities, and they're so proud of themselves because they live in the cities and blah 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 blah, but they don't have room to raise a garden, they don't have room to raise an animal. And so industrial farming just kind of naturally developed because farming is expensive. It's hard to get into it. When you can't get into it, you can't get out of it, as Joel Salatin points out with his mobile farming stuff. We'll get into that. Um, but yeah, it's absolutely ludicrous. So anyway, the point is, my manager gets to live in this massive house just off to the side of the barn. Downside of that is, if an alarm goes off, he's expected to be at that barn regardless of what time of day or night it is, or how much snow may have fallen in the last hour or two. And we do live in Manitoba, and there are no real mountains to block anything here. So overnight, depending on the wind, we could end up with like 18, 20 inches of snow. And it's just kind of like, yeah, well, you're going to be at work today, right? So, like, there's that. But he's got this massive garden bed out in front of his house. And I watched it all year, growing weeds and rocks. And as the rain pounded down on that garden bed, those rocks came up and those weeds came up. And I'm looking at it going, dude, you've got kids, you got a wife. Why aren't you growing food? So I'm seriously considering asking if I can use his garden next year. Is like, dude, if you're not going to plant there, can I? It's been cleared. It's obviously fertile land. Like, let me give it a go. What do you got to lose? So yeah, we'll see about that. I am looking forward to, growing my own fruits and vegetables, growing my own meats. That's one of the things that excites me the most about getting land. Well, the next piece of land, because we're on half an acre here, and we still can't really raise anything more than, according to bylaws, 3 chickens. So if anybody ever asks how many chickens does Mr. Bear have, he has 3 chickens, and those other ones, he has 3 chickens. It's ridiculous, though. Like, really, they're a social animal. They should have more than 3 to begin with. And not to mention keeping them through the winter. You should have more there. But so yeah, I can't have a couple of sheep, or I can't have a couple of goats mowing my lawn. Or Eric, I'd be following you so fast. I would have goats out there, and I would be loving every minute of it. I've actually even envisioned, like, okay, so if I had one of those Premier One and electric poultry netting fences that you see so many people using with their mobile goat things, and there's a couple $100 gone. But anyway, if I had it, I figure I could divide my yard into like about 20 different sections that 2 or 3 sheep or goats could adequately munch off of in any given day. And ultimately, my neighbors should be thrilled by that, because then they'll be mowing the lawn more often than I actually mow the lawn, because I don't. We've got the electric lawnmower, so it's not like it's hard to do, or I got to get gas or anything like that. But I just don't. I let the grass grow longer because I enjoy grass blowing in the breeze. And when you've got this golf course lawn, you don't really enjoy the same effect as when you've got, like a good, well, good grazing point, really. If you got this much lawn out there, you can actually see it blowing in the wind. And I like that. And you know what I've noticed is, in the 4 years that we've been here, okay, our lawn doesn't flood anymore. Everybody else's lawn floods in the spring. Our lawn doesn't flood. We get a hard rain and we get puddles in people's yards, and our yard just sucks it right up. It's almost like there's something to this theory of letting a plant grow longer and get stronger roots. It's a freaking miracle. Who knew? Well, lots of people know. You just got to look them up online, right? But unfortunately, it seems really hard for people to get to that information, which is why I'm putting together this playlist. So anybody who goes, hey, that's an interesting idea, can just kind of float through the playlist and is like, know that one, know that one, know that one, never heard of them, click play, right? And that's That's the goal. That's the goal. I want to spread this knowledge like wildfire. Oh my goodness. I want everybody who's ranching to consider some of these things. I want everybody who gets into ranching to get into it on a basis of these are the things that I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna keep things going. And the guy who runs Minokan Farms, actually, that's another channel that everybody here should check out. But he actually has done a lot for helping to further the restorative restoration agriculture, or regenerative. There we go. I'm like, there's an R word that people are using for this regenerative agriculture movement, and it's absolutely fabulous. So if you're not sub to Minokan Farms, go sub to him. That said, there are going to be a lot of lectures on there, which is why I love the channel. And a lot of them are people that we're going to talk about. And if you're sub to the channel, I expect you to talk about them intelligently, all right? Because that is the point. I want to expand the conversation. I like debate for debate's sake. Can't stand argument, So if you're too passionate about a point to listen to logic, then please don't engage me on it, because it's just going to get frustrating. Because I'm just going to keep throwing logic at you, and you're just going to keep throwing passion at me, and it's not going to go anywhere. So yeah, but I love a well thought out discussion. So yeah, Allan Savory, I think, merits a lot of really well thought out discussions. And I've come to the realization that if he's ever speaking anywhere within like probably about 800 kilometers, because that's a full tank of gas in our car right now. So if he's within 8 hours drive, I will probably go check it out, because I really want to be able to absorb one of his lectures in person, and possibly even ask him, whatever question is inspired by that moment at the lecture, because he is, oh man, some of the things that he's done, or he talks about as though he has done with agriculture. Like, there's this one thing: we took this largest ranching company that, well, maybe the largest one that's ever been, and we got 4,000 acres of absolute crap land, and there wasn't a grass plant on it. And we put our animals on it, and I realized I was wrong, so we put even more animals on it. And he talks about rebuilding that. And well, I'd like to hear the discussion of that in a lot greater detail than you can really get out of someone giving a lecture, because in those lecture scenarios, you got to cover a lot of points. Usually you've got to cover them too fast for the average person to suck it in. I do all right, because I was one of those kids who got kind of bored in class, but yeah, it doesn't allow a speaker a lot of opportunity to really dive into a topic. And I'd like to take one of those while chatting after the lecture opportunities to say, here's a cup of coffee, I'd like to talk to you about this. And life experiences that this guy's got to have had too. Like, I would just like to sit and listen to him bullshit for an hour or two, living in Rhodesia and going through all the wars that went on down there. Jeff Lawton's great. Yeah, totally. And, watching it change to Zimbabwe with the political changes and everything, and getting exiled from his own country and being banned from universities for, how controversial his perspective is. And then, coming out to North America and seeing firsthand all of these things that he kind of heard were fixed, and then sees with his own eyes are just absolutely even more broken than anybody ever thought. And trying to challenge the system. Like, here is somebody who could teach old hippies about how to challenge the system. And it's just all kind of gets swept under the rug of how controversial what he's saying is. But forget that. Just admire the guy's determination for continuing to say it. Since what, 50 years he's been going off about this stuff. He's been daring people, he's been challenging people. Go ahead, shoot my science apart, tear me apart politically, prove me wrong with a better system, because then something better will be happening. I don't think this dude's in it for himself. I really don't. Like, people that are in it for themselves don't share. They don't go, oh well, you're putting up a fight, well, I'm actually going to fight back. No, if he was in it for himself, a little bit of fighting, get himself some headlines, and then bugger off into oblivion. But no, this man truly believes in the message that he's trying to share, and I think that's a big part of the reason why I want to share his message as well. Is I believe in it. It it agrees with what I naturally believe to begin with, and anytime that happens, I think anybody is more likely to well, what are these, resonate with the message. So it's interesting when you find people along the same path and sharing knowledge in a similar fashion, and I am I'm just blown away by some of the people that I want to share on this playlist, and some of the people that have been inspired by Allan Savory and now in turn are inspiring him. There are some people that have taken his thoughts and his trials and tribulations and his holistic management context and rolled with it and doubled it up, and they're trying new things and they're doing actual crops, and they're still doing it with proper cattle resource management and making sure that the land doesn't get destroyed. And just, it is so inspiring what's going on right now, but it's so frustrating how few people are talking about it comparatively, and this has always frustrated me about YouTube. A cute kitten video will be seen 1 million times within an hour of being posted, but something really important may only get 100 views. Like, lifetime. I've watched some of these videos, and they're just, what these people are saying changes everything if you understand it in context. All by itself, it doesn't make any sense, and it seems like, well, you're just you're a pencil pushing nerd. What do you know about being out in the fields? And it's easy enough to write it off, and I can totally see why it does get written off. Oh, excuse the arrow garden going off on the side there. And I can see why it does get written off, right? But when you put it all together, and that's again something I'm trying to do with this playlist, is when you put it all together and you listen to these individuals as a group. And I don't know, I'm a music kid, so I almost want to say you take all of their individual voices and you create the choir with the message. Maybe that resonates to somebody out there like myself, but it is awe-inspiring, and I want to make sure more people are aware of these people. And I've come to the realization, actually, I was talking with Shocks about this yesterday, which is kind of what brought me to the realization, that it is safer for me as a YouTuber to keep this information to myself. It is much more advantageous to not get involved in the controversy, to not dive down these rabbit holes, to not ask why, to not challenge the establishment, especially since a YouTuber's revenue is kind of dependent on following certain socially acceptable guidelines. And Eric, I noticed you're at 788 today, so you're going to be learning all about these wonderful YouTube guidelines soon. And more power to you, buddy. I am super excited to see you get to 1,000. Have you ever watched Jeff Poppin? Jeff Poppin. You know what? I'm not familiar with that name. I'm at a desk, and you think I could find a pen? Pencil. All right. I'm going to write that down, though. That's with a J, right? Jeff Poppin. Sorry, I'm sure my camera's shaking like mad right now. I will check him out, as I am always looking for new people that can teach me something new in the yard, in the garden, in the field. And Eric, I'm sure you're aware of my opinion on this. Is kind of like, is a garden a small farm, or is a farm a really big garden? Which is it? Which is it? Is a ranch a petting zoo? Petting zoo a small ranch? Which is it? I kind of want to run a ranch and farm that is essentially a giant garden and petting zoo. I joke with Shocks. I'm like, I'm going to name our bull Buttons, and that's just the way it is. And yeah. And because of that, that's why I'm going out and seeking all this information, because as I said earlier, I need to be able to farm in a way that don't cost me squat to get started. can be done on trashed land, and basically can be done remotely, because we live here, and so far the bits of land that I can find at a semi-affordable price, it's still out of my price range because I'm like broke, but an affordable price range. We'll get into that in another video, I imagine. But anyway, an hour and a half away, so I can't be as on top of livestock as I might like. So that rules a lot of things out for me. A lot of people wouldn't have a problem running cattle an hour away. I am not cool with it. I've actually heard of cattle rustling since we've been out here. Yes, it's 2019 and we still have people out there rustling cattle. Yes. Really? But it is what it is. I mean, you get one of them suckers on a trailer, you get him to auction. Even if you only get $1.50 a pound for a 1,200-pound steer that you didn't pay nothing for nor raise for even so much as a day, hey, get the tank of gas and however much crack you need for the night before you go steal another cow, or whatever your reason is for stealing from somebody who's trying to make a living. Sorry, I'm a little cynical. Thieves are not my favorite people. And farm thieves are down even farther there. But Holler85, hey, welcome to the chat. Keep up with your hopes and dreams. Don't let the mainstream take that away from you. I refuse to let the mainstream take that away from me. I'm one of those people that I hang on to the rock in the middle of the stream and look for a way to go against it. So I'm not worried about that, but it's just the getting it done and getting it started, because like I say, the farmland has to be almost thrown away for me to be able to get it. And that's just tragic, but I'll figure it out. That's what I do. I spent my whole life going, okay, well, this is an insurmountable obstacle to anybody else, but you know what? I'm stubborn. I'm going to find a way through this. And I do. So it'll be interesting. And those of you who are in it for the long-term investment to see what really happens on this channel, you're going to watch some weird shit go down. I'm sure you're going to watch me screw up left, right, and center. And who knows, I might even have the occasional instant success. I'm not banking on it. I'm banking on failure. I'm planning for failure. I'm hoping for success. But when it comes to any kind of business math, I always expect the lowest possible income and the highest possible expense. That way, if I've erred either way, it's a bonus. Eric, look up Barefoot Farmer Jeff Poppin. Oh, Barefoot Farmer. Well, I like him already. And that's bear as in naked foot. All right. Holler85, we can learn together then. That's kind of the whole point, right? Even on the main JT Bear channel, that was the point with the aquaponic videos there is, well, I don't know Jack, but this is what I'm trying and it seems to be working. So if anybody knows anything about why this should or should not work, I'd love some feedback. And that's exactly how I intend to go into ranching and farming. I've invested a lot of years into watching lectures and reading blogs and talking to farmers. And I bet if the time that I had spent in self-guided education was rewarded academically, I would probably be well past my master's by now. But that don't mean jack, because hey, you learned it on YouTube, you learned it online. It ain't nothing. But all right, I'll just prove it. And I really don't care if, I ever get, Dr. Bear, honorary doctorate of agricultural, blah, blah, freaking blah. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm with Allan on that one too. I don't care one way or the other what you think of me. I care about what you think about what I'm saying. Does this make sense to you? And if it doesn't make sense, then you need to do something about it. If it does make sense, then you need to do something with it. And his idea that livestock can be used to repair destroyed land, dying land, devastated land, deforested land, desertifying land, so many bits of land, is brilliant to me. It's absolutely brilliant because, yeah, I made fun of the 20 million trees that they were planting because I don't take anything seriously, pretty much. But they need to plant the trees. I get that. We really do need to replant the ancestral forests and the jungles that they're burning down. It's all absolute crap. But we also need to make huge changes to other things uh, and repair other things, such as our historical grasslands and our pasture lands. And a lot of people think, what we need to do is we need to let it go wild. We need to let nature do her thing and she will fix everything. Except mankind is not particularly good at letting things go. We have to interfere. In modern range science, we take animals away from things. We complain because the sheep are overgrazing the land, so we get rid of the sheep. And then what do? You've got even less plants out there somehow, and the plants that are out there are doing even worse somehow. But you took the sheep away, so they should be doing better. But they're not. They're not. And people think that livestock will go out and they'll hit a field like a lawnmower, and they'll take down absolutely anything they can get into their mouth, and that is why they destroy land. But it's not. The reason that livestock generally destroy land with the standard lazy ass ranching system that's out there, which is basically, I got a 160-acre field, I'm just going to throw open the gate, I'm going to shove my cattle in there. All right, well, I'll put 32 of them out there. There we go. They got 5 acres each. They'll be fine. And I'm just going to let them graze. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to pick them up and take them off for slaughter. And that's me raising cattle, because that's how you raise cows. That's how you spoil cows like spoiled grandchildren, is what happens. And that is why the pasture gets destroyed, because they'll go out there. And I don't know if you've ever taken a kid to a buffet. Like, if you haven't, you should. Take your brothers, sisters, aunts, neighbors, kid to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and you will see this phenomenon with your own 2 eyes. But a cow, or a steer, cattle, will go into the field, and they'll go, well, I like this plant. This sucks. This sucks. I'd eat that if I had to. I'm not really going to eat that. Not really going to eat that. Oh, ice cream. And all of a sudden, everything that they define as ice cream is now a target in that field. And anything they didn't like gets to keep on growing, keep getting bigger, keep getting stronger, squishing out the roots, stealing the light from the plants that the cows do like. So before you know it, the cows have grazed those delicious plants down to absolutely nothing, to a point where they can no longer sustain themselves with photosynthesis. So rancher has to come in and he has to spray weed control, and then he has to come in here and he has to spray nitrogen, and he does all of this stuff that's doing huge damage to things in the soil that we will talk about in future videos, just to try and get that grass growing up again. Or worse yet, he's got to reseed his field. What a pain in the ass and an unnecessary expense. But anyway, you got to do it. You got to feed your cows. Because you're leaving them out there lazy. But what Allan's Savory is saying is, okay, take that and even break it down into 4. Okay, if that 160 acres, as 160 acres, will feed your cows for a year, then a quarter of it will feed your cows for a quarter of a year. Okay, right? That is not inconceivable. The logic's pretty straightforward on that. So what happens is, even if they are picking and choosing their way through that quarter that they're stuck in, everything in the other 3 gets to grow at a consistent rate. The good plants, the bad plants, the I'm never going to eat that plants, the ice cream plants, it all gets to grow, gets the same chance, because it's not being shaved down, trimmed down by those livestock. So when the cattle move into the next one, okay, you've got the opportunity to check behind them, and you go, okay, did they graze this fairly evenly and consistently? Did they take a little bit from everything? Were they still highly selective as to the plants that they grazed? And am I looking at an ice cream and As Gordon Hazard says, what is it, ice cream and cornbread? But I like cornbread, so that doesn't really work for me. But, ice cream and Brussels sprouts. There we go. Every kid hates Brussels sprouts. So am I looking at an ice cream and Brussels sprouts pasture here where all the ice cream is gone and all the Brussels sprouts are getting huge and they're everywhere? Or am I looking at something that's been kind of consistently cut down? If it's been consistently kind of cut down, then you're good. The space was good. The animals ate it down appropriately. If it's been picked away at selectively, then you need to make sure they've got less space for their next time in there. So they're less selective when they go through it. And that is how you rebuild the pasture land. And that is how you get the diversity back in there. And that is how you get the positive, happy, healthy plants that will give you good, healthy livestock. I mean, yeah, they're going to eat some crap in there, hopefully nothing too poisonous or anything. And there are some people that suggest that eating a less strict diet can put off flavors into your meat. Interesting. I say the deer, the bear, and all of this stuff eats whatever it can get. I like the taste of game. If I'm going to raise meat, I want game that I want meat that tastes like it's had a variety of things to taste over the years. That's just crazy, though. I think farmers use synthetic fertilizers, but they need to feed the microbes in the soil to break them down. Oh, Eric, see, I love you, man. We are so on the same educational journey here. The synthetic fertilizers do kind of feed things that are in the soil, but unfortunately they create lazy plants, and the plants are supposed to be feeding the things that are in the soil. So by improving the crops now, they're diminishing the crops in the future, because the crops that are growing right now need to be doing their part to rebuild the soil. So it's again, it's like, where's the beginning of a wedding ring, right? Where do you start on this journey of soil health, of global health, of ecologically friendly farming, of sustainable farming, of the new paradigm, really? Because I do think that in the next agricultural revolution, sure, we'll call it that. In the next agricultural revolution, we're going to see some huge changes, and they're going to be changes towards a lot of these things that these individuals are talking about. As Eric brings up the microbes, the mycorrhizal fungi, this is huge, and in a monoculture field, it is non-existent. So, like, wow. And if you're spraying fungicides in your field, there goes your mycorrhizal fungi. Okay. And if your mycorrhizal fungi is what you need to get communication between the microbes and the bacteria and all the various things that are breaking down the rocks and the nutrients and the minerals that are naturally found in the soil and creating the carbon. Chris Nichols, we'll get to her. Wow. What an amazing speaker. But you got to listen really fast. She can get going real fast. But she's got some amazing stuff that she shares about all that. And it's going to be great going through all of this stuff and discussing it with you guys, because as I say, I'm cheap, and I'm broke. So those two things kind of combine well. So when I do get land, I'm not going to be spending money on a tractor, not because I don't want a big tractor. I mean, hey, John Deere's are cool. I got little tractors all over my place, right? Obviously, I'm addicted to Club Green just because, I don't know, I like green. But I'm not going to go out and get that kind of a loan or that kind of a debt just so I can go out and rip up my soil and damage those microbes and destroy the biological function of my soil. So I can have the heavy machinery to pack it down as I'm driving, and so I can have the equipment I need to put out all those seeds and to put out all those poisons and to put out all those chemicals, when ultimately, I can hitch Buttons the bull to a wagon and we can stand there with some of the neighborhood kids local farm kids tossing freehand assorted seed into the field, and it'll probably come back better. I want diversity in my fields. I want I want a genuine prairie field. I'd like to see 50 to 100 plus species growing in an acre, because it will bring in the birds and the bugs and the stuff that I need to make it all happen naturally. Yeah, it's going to take years. And like I say, because I'm going to have to buy land that was trashed by all of these inputs, it's going to take years upon years, I'm sure, to get it back to a natural and fluid state. But as soon as I get started, it's going to start. And that is the most important part about it. It's like with this playlist. The most important thing about starting the playlist is getting it started. The most important thing about initiating, and the hardest thing about any conversation really, is initiating the conversation. People don't want to talk about things they don't understand because it's scary and nobody wants to seem like they don't know what they're talking about. Well, this isn't a problem for me. I think most of us know I generally don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm excited about something I think I just learned, so I'm sharing it anyway. A lot of people don't, they're not cool with that, and whatever, I can respect that. That's fine. But we need to get the conversation going. We need to get this information out there. We need to get it so that anybody looking up farming sees this kind of stuff, sees regenerative agriculture, sees that if I do things a little bit differently, it won't cost me anywhere near as much money, so I'll actually make more profits out of the deal. Well, hey, how is that not a win? You know, Brandon, hey man, how you doing? Is aggressive composting part of this plan? Well, I'm going to have to ask for a greater definition of aggressive composting. One of the things that I've been kind of learning about lately is that most of the carbon, or no, let me rephrase this. I got to start from the beginning. Plants can get 5 times the carbon into the soil that we can by putting compost and mulch on the soil, because most of it, as a lot of people have said over the years on a lot of my channels, most of it just oxidizes, decomposes, becomes CO2 back up in the air. A little tiny bit gets sucked up by the plant, sucked down into the roots, blah, blah, blah. But composting is great and is a fantastic way to get a lot of things done. But I don't necessarily think, like how most people think of composting, is really going to do that much. Getting lots of manure from other farms plus composting everything you can. Aha! No, I am probably not going to take any manure from any of the other farms unless I know that they are following pretty strict guidelines with how their animals are being raised. Because if I get dewormers and stuff in my soil, I can kill my dung beetles and stuff, and those are populations that I'm going to be trying to grow right from the beginning. um, all of the manure that we get on our property is going to be utilized on site, obviously. And I intend to do like Joel Saladin is doing with his carbon rich diaper. I'm going to do a lot of wood chipping, a lot of straw shredding, and put that down, mix that in with a lot of the manure. We're going to use that to fill in low areas, to beef up areas where it's maybe a little brockier than we might like. But not going to be taking manure off site. We have somebody that comes and gets the manure from our lagoon at the barn, and apparently they inject that into the soil, because that's how you have to lay manure out here. Thank God. But that does a lot of damage to it, and our waste at the barn sits in a non-aerated lagoon, and it sits in non-aerated pits, and our hogs are, obviously, because it's an industrial farm, they're very medicated. So we've got a lot of penicillins and just invimectin and all kinds of stuff in there, and I just would not want to introduce that into lands that I'm trying to restore. I would rather just wait until my own livestock can poop there. And I'm gonna fork over the money on that stupid Premier One electric fencing when the time comes, and just so I can control the poop. Eric, lazy composter. I let my chickens in my. That's not lazy. That is brilliant. My chickens have been the most effective composter we've had out here, and they're doing the Joel Saladin thing. I'm giving them all of the carbon-rich crap that would normally go into the compost to sit and wait and turn and turn and turn and turn, and they're pooping on it, they're ripping it up, they're shredding it, and I can't wait to clean out the chicken run this spring. It is I was in there kind of measuring where ground level I think used to be versus where it is now. And I think in some places there are a good 8 inches of lift from the various like lawn clippings and stuff that they've broken down in there. So I don't think that's lazy. I think that's brilliant. Hashtag poop control. That's right. That's right. Laying down the brown. All right. Poop control. But yeah, the a lot of the stuff that goes into cattle to keep them like dewormer is vicious on your your insect life on your farm, and I don't think enough people really respect insect life on the farm. And they look at pollinators. Oh, we need bees. Well, yeah, everybody knows you need bees. You got to have bees. Cheerios, bees. Oh, bees, bees, bees. But there are so many other insects out there. Like one of my favorite stats, and I hear it from so many of them, I couldn't tell you who it's originally attributed to. I'm thinking Jonathan, I want to say Lundgren. Anyway, he's like an entomologist that's in this group of regenerative agriculturalists that I'm so hooked up with right now. But he says basically for every one pest out there, there's like 1,700 beneficial insects. 1,700. And I stop and I think about the aphid wars that I've experienced in my basement and the seclusion from other beneficial insects that goes on there. And I think to myself, 1,700 beneficial insects that would be eating these suckers if I was growing these plants outside. Why would I spray pesticide and ruin 1,700 scavengers for coming in and taking away this pest that is trying to destroy my crop? I don't need them as fish food that bad, you know? So I like that theory that diversity brings in different bugs, and different bugs bring in different birds, and different birds bring in different beasts, and they all have different biological composition to their intestinal tract. Therefore, they add their own uniqueness to the soil. And the more of them that you get, the more unique things added into that soil. Again, we're back at diversity, and we are starting to build up a massive collection of microbes and microbiology that can just do so much for restoring land. Haven't used any kinds of pesticides in years and don't have much of an issue, right? I'm guessing, I mean, looking at your property, I'm guessing that you do have a wide variety of, I want to call them predators, but beneficial bugs that cruise around your property. I mean, you seem like a pretty straightforward individual who's kind of watched a lot of these things and is implementing as many of them as you can, from what I can tell. And I think you're doing a great job with it. Like I say, I love the goats, man. Absolutely love the goats. Um, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you develop the property because I know I'm going to be inspired by watching. Oh, excuse me, watching what you do and what you can do, and seeing these ideas develop through a YouTuber I feel I can trust. Like I don't see you as the kind of person who does bullshit backstage to make it look like this project work. I see you as kind of like myself, and if it works, it works, and we share that. And if it fails, and we share that too. So yeah, I'm really excited to watch what you got going on there. And the goats are super exciting. I know I don't get enough viewing time on my favorite channels as far as my viewers that I used to get out and watch everybody, right? I used to spend all day every day in front of my computer, but unfortunately part of contributing to society and trying to stay alive um, has sucked up a great portion of my day. And semi fortunately, my desire to fast forward and fast track my way to my goals is sucking up another huge portion of it because I'm devoting a lot more of my time to answering questions and theoretical business models and things like that. Because Like I said earlier, I plan on failure whenever it's possible in a situation, and I want to run a scenario until there's no more failure possible. Because when I get started, I cannot afford to fail. There will be too many of my own family members expecting me to fail, can't afford to fail. There will be too many cynical viewers expecting me to fail, can't afford to fail. There are too many farmers around me already laughing at how outrageous my ideas are that I talk about. And they're all waiting with bated breath for me to fall flat on my face when I get going with this. And I absolutely cannot let it happen. So that's part of why I'm putting so much research into it. But as I was saying earlier, because God, I talk in circles, don't I? They used to call it my circular logic. My friends hated it. But as I was saying earlier, that's why I'm developing this body of knowledge and I'm learning about all these individuals and all the things they're doing. And that's why, while I could keep it to myself and stay out of the controversy, I want to share it with everybody else because I want to learn and I want to learn from you and your experiences. But I still, like I say, I don't have the time anymore to necessarily dive into it as firsthand as I used to and as I would like to. Um, so we get 9 people here. We got Brandon and Eric chatting. Holler was with us a little while ago. So if you're actually here, feel free to say something in the chat. Otherwise, I guess I should kind of get back to Mr. Allan Savory and discussing some of the bits and pieces there. I am quite fascinated, actually, by, as I've said, some of the claims that he's made about properties in the past. And I love how open he is to feedback. People ask him just some pretty outrageous questions. And granted, as long as he hears the question correctly, he does a pretty good job of answering them in kind of a no nonsense, but grandfatherly kind of way. So that's cool. I enjoy a speaker who is able to engage in the conversations at the end and the questions at the end. But if he's been doing this for 50 plus years, then it makes sense that he has answered this question before. No matter how original you think your question is, after 50 years, he has answered this question before. So excuse me a second here. Get so parched doing these things. But he's very inspirational in just how dedicated and determined he is to make a go of it. And if his ideas are even just on the right track. Howdy, Mike. Ooh, very important question. You need my advice. Well, I question your sources, but fly at it, man. What can we do for you? Drum roll. I don't have tarot cards. That's Shox's thing. So if it's that kind of question, you'll need to tune in on Tuesday or Thursday morning. I can help with pasture or livestock related things based on theory. So yeah, with the Allan Savory thing, while we wait for Mike's question here, just the idea that we can take places that used to be beautiful, lush grass, taller than your horse, and destroy them with agriculture to a point where one plant grows in every 10 square feet, to me is horrifying. I don't know if that's because I'm Gen X or if that's because I'm like global stewardship or what, but it's absolutely horrifying that we could have allowed things to degrade so far. And the idea that somebody is willing to throw his ass on the line to give us a way that we may not necessarily like, but will solve the problem or at least make things better. I feel good about that. And I feel good about sharing that kind of an individual. So, okay, Mike, the bottom of my garden lives a family of very nasty, vicious badgers. Is it okay to use a big stick to get rid of them in self-defense? My girlfriend's a dwarf, so I'm worried for her safety. Now, I'm just going to assume this is all to be taken seriously. And if you have a problem with actually vicious badgers on your property, then it's probably not a bad idea to get some live traps and get them dealt with by bylaws or whatever. If your girlfriend is a little on the shorter side, so you're worried for her safety, then hook her up with a small baseball bat or something, a little bit of braided woven wire or barbed wire on the end of that. If she makes good contact, that badger will notice. But that said, badgers are not nice creatures, and we have a few of them that have holes on the way to and from the barn. They're ugly and they will stare you down. And if you get out of your car, you are putting your foot in jeopardy. So I can definitely see how you could be worried. But yeah, I would go with a live trap, or if you're particularly skilled and they've caused any personal grief, if they've harmed you or your family or your loved ones in any way, shape, or form, and it's legal where you are, set up yourself a little blind, get yourself a little bipod, and play whack a badger with your local little Camp 22 specialist. Just do something nice with the fur, or better yet, get a badger. And I'm not even going to go into this, but you can make yourself a whole little Wind in the Willows collection depending on the problems you have in your garden. So, there's a market for that kind of stuff out there. Excellent advice. Thank you. Well, I try, but like I say, I always question anybody coming to me for advice, even though I will think things out and I'll give you the best answer I can possibly come up with. It's just, I second guess myself a lot. So there's that. Badgers though. Badgers. Okay, you want to hear one of the dumbest things I've heard around the lunch table in a long time? One of the guys was watching YouTube videos on catfish noodling. Those of you in the South may be familiar with this concept. You basically stick your hand into a hole and grab yourself a catfish and pull them out. One of the guys at the table happens to be a trapper. He has trap lines for financial reasons, and he has trap lines for protecting his flock. So both sides of it there. But he recently got himself a badger, and they were talking about doing a badger noodling video because you guys in the South think you're tough when you're noodling for catfish. Try this. They're all talking about, yeah, and then we'll stick, our hand down the hole with the dead badger and we'll pull it out. Badger noodling. That's how we do it in Canada. And I mean, yeah, okay, that would be really, really funny. But the nature of the YouTube challenge situation right now, some idiot's going to go out there and try badger noodling. And just don't, man. Funny thought though, and it would be a great Far Side comic. I love Gary Larson and the Far Side comics. They are fantastic. So yeah, okay. Allan Savory type questions. Anybody? Allan Savory type thoughts? Howdy, Gail. I did see you there. I didn't wave. I meant to. My bad. Yeah. Holy crow, it's been an hour and 12 minutes in this live stream, so that's that's something. Yeah, so anyone? I wish I could kill this delay on the comments and just kind of see what's going on as it's happening and respond to comments as they're put in there. It's like a 30 or 45-second delay. It's very hard to communicate in this fashion and involves a lot of babbling about nothing, but I do that well. So let's see, did I cover all the points that I wanted to about Allan Savory? We talked a little bit about drought and flood. When you combine two words and get one, you get drought. All right. I should look at New Zealand. They stopped farming subsidies, forcing farmers to reassess how they farm. Oh, I have listened to several lectures from New Zealand. That is how I found a few of my pasture things. And I had no idea they were so obsessed with rye crops down there. That's a little bit crazy. So I'm hoping that some of these changes in New Zealand, because it is an island nation, I'm hoping it will be more obvious to the rest of the globe what's happening there and how their changes are going, because in a mandated type situation where change is being forced, this could go one way or the other, hard and fast. And I'm really, really hoping that it goes to the positive. I mean, I've got friends down there, people that I knew back in BC that have wandered off, and that's it. Well, I'm moving to New Zealand. I'm going to become a Kiwi. It's it. And they're, they got kids down there, and they're trying to have a good, solid lifestyle. I mean, he's a mason, so farming doesn't really affect him that much. Rocks are still rocks, but subsidies are welfare for farmers, and that's another topic that I probably shouldn't get into. But I will say that my personal belief is such that I won't be taking government handouts to keep my land afloat. However, there's a slight possibility that I might take money from Ducks Unlimited to keep some land aside to help me pay the bills in the beginning. I don't necessarily believe that the Ducks Unlimited conservation riparian lands are being managed correctly, but from what I hear from local farmers, if you give up a couple of puddles out of your quarter section, like, you get paid pretty nicely because you're trying to keep the ducks, that keep the duck hunters, and blah 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 blah. So if appeasing a bit of the system that wants to conserve space for wildlife, which is on the surface a beautiful idea, can help me restore the land beneath my livestock's feet until I can get off of the payments from them and I can do a better job of restoring the wetlands, great. I think it's probably better if that money comes to somebody like me who's going to use it to restore the rest of the acreage than if it goes to somebody like Farmer Dave who's just going to throw it at a tractor payment, or use it to buy a new till, or use it to pay for this year's pesticides. So I don't feel that bad about that. I'm not terribly keen on government subsidies and handouts and things. I think okay, here we go. Here's a nice way to relate this. I think much like when we give artificial fertilizers to our crops so that we can see a short-term gain in their productivity, and we notice a long-term drop in their residual soil functionality, it's very similar with anybody who is, if their livelihood depends on somebody else, they are going to do what that somebody else says, period, and only up to the point of what that somebody else says. So I don't think I don't think they're a good idea. Grants are a different thing. Say for example, somebody like me wants to go out and deal with the government bullshit to get a grant to get their land so they can get started on it. Great, more power to you. That is totally different to me. To me, that's them going, well, here is some land, good luck. Or here is the money to buy land, good luck. You are not counting on them month after month, year after year, and without them, you would not be able to stay afloat. You have simply used that opportunity to eliminate a future line of debt. Sounds circular, probably is. I'm sure the logic is flawed according to a lot of people, but I have known too many people that were once industrious individuals who discovered they could survive on a tiny little government payout and now seem to have no motivation at all. So I think farmers who get subsidies to do things the UN way are probably not really helping the situation and are kind of increasing the debt load. And there's trade shit going on and there's all kinds of stuff going on, and I understand that, and the market is volatile, and I understand that, and sometimes we need a help, I understand that, But yeah, are they going to pay me to start a nonprofit business? Right, right, right. That's exactly it. Like maybe it's because I was brought up by boomers. Okay, but I believe a person or a business should be able to survive on their own efforts. And if they can't, they should ask for help as little as possible. That said, if they see the opportunity to help others, they should do so as often as possible, which again is a contradiction in terms. I know. Um, but that is just me. I will happily help you in a heartbeat before I will ask you for help. And if I ask you for help, it kind of means I don't see another way. Um, and or it kind of means that I believe that we can do a lot more together. So there's that. Yeah. All right. We've gotten off the topic of Allan Savory again, though. Founder of the Savory Institute in, I think it's Boulder, Colorado, or something like that. They're working in lots of different countries all around the world to try and help people rebuild the grasslands and sink a little bit of carbon and get the natural water cycle working again, reduce floods, reduce droughts, and stabilize microclimates. And ultimately, working on the theory that if you stabilize enough microclimates, you might have a chance at stabilizing a macroclimate. Because his theory also is that mankind, and these are my words, mankind is a parasitic species. Okay, my words. He uses the term desert making species, and he credits that to somebody else that he had seen a lecture that she had done, and she was referred to us as a desert making species. And that is agriculture that is doing it. And agriculture really needs to change. Agriculture needs to grow up and pull up its big girl panties, as it were, and just go, okay, well, we doing the best we can, and we're doing what everybody's told us to do. So I don't see how I'm doing it wrong, because that's kind of the current perspective. But they understand they're not happy. They understand they're paying out too much. They understand they're not taking home but 2% of every dollar, and then that 2% of the dollar, we pay our income taxes on top of that. We got GST, we got PST, we got taxes on our taxes. We get taxed on the taxes we pay on our taxes. It is ridiculous. And those taxes all go to pay for those subsidies for people that aren't doing it in a functional manner. I mean, maybe you're not cut out to be a farmer. If you can't make money at it, maybe there's a reason. Maybe you need to do it differently. Okay, if you're determined to be a farmer, then that's not the case that you're not supposed to be a farmer. Because if you're determined to do it, then you are determined to do it. Just like I believe my calling is to get on land and maintain a position of land stewardship. I am determined. It's going to happen sooner or later. It's going to happen. So I'm one of those people that's going to obviously have to try new things. Gabe Brown is a good example that I wanted to get to further down the playlist too, of somebody who was struggling with their farm, struggling with their ranch year after year after year, problem after problem after problem. And he and his wife both ended up getting off-farm jobs. And he tried something different. And in the course of trying something different, he learned something new and saved himself some money, and discovered that, if he puts getting her done in front of getting her done the way, then he can make a lot more profit in each acre, right? I love Gabe Brown. How am I not surprised, Eric? Yeah, I suspect I'm going to be preaching to the choir with a lot of these people, because it seems like you are definitely, like I said, on the same educational path. But yeah, he has done amazing things. And in all fairness, I mean, I probably should have started with Gabe Brown, because he's got it all kind of working together, and it's like next generation, next level shit that he's into. Whereas Allan Savory is still just talking about pasture lands and grazing livestock. Gabe is like, he's incorporated crops, and he's still using those croplands as pasture lands and grazing his livestock, and he's still building the soil, and it is freaking amazing. It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I'm not getting a lot of questions or the sense that anybody did their homework. Uh, did anybody go out and watch an Allan Savory video? I mean, Eric, I know you did. It's a pretty safe bet. But I'm hoping with tomorrow's introduction that maybe we can get some folks going out there and watching some of these people and get a conversation going next Wednesday. I know I'm not very regular with the live stream thing, but I've actually taken the time to move my laptop upstairs. It's set up in the den. I've got a semi-permanent situation going. I would like to do these 5:30 till 7 pretty much, while Shox is doing her belly dance class. And I've got the kind of the house to myself, and I've got some quiet in the background and stuff. So I am hoping to introduce a new future farmer tomorrow, and I am hoping to discuss them on the following Wednesday. And yeah, if there's an interesting comment, I may do a response video to it. This week it was Fungi who got the response video. And like I say, I hope everything is still copacetic between Punky and I. It's been a lot of years of chatting, and I would hate for an idea to come in between our friendship. So that would be terrible, but it is what it is. So I'm not seeing any more questions pop up. I'm not seeing much of anything. I think I'm going to wrap it up, guys, because we are looking at pretty much 7 o'clock here. So the little woman's going to be home, and I should I promised her I'd get started on hamburgers for when she got home from class. So I need to get my ass down there cooking up some beef. Yeah. So much love to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me in this little chat. And I've enjoyed kind of the babble. I feel like it's been very, very circular, but I was actually expecting a lot more questions. So yeah, there is that. Have a fantastic week ahead. And like I said, I should be back tomorrow on the farm channel introducing somebody. Sunday, give or take some sort of garden video on the main JT Bear channel. And if you're subscribed to the Bear in the Kitchen channel, here's just sort of a spoiler alert. I'm going to start cooking up some of those duck breasts. I got a couple of different things I want to try. So yeah, I figure I might as well share that with the crowd because, succeed or fail, it's always fun to share with the whole class. So it could be interesting. All right. Yeah. Much love, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your crops. Take care of your livestock. Take care of your families. And yeah, just throw that kindness out there everywhere, man. That shit is free. All right. Much love, folks.